Hey girls, welcome back to Mixed Story Time. Or should I say, welcome to our last story we're going to read about our community helpers. Now, we have been talking about friends in our community that help us with all different kinds of things. Help us stay healthy and help us be safe and help us learn and help us with things that we need, okay? Now today, we're going to talk about a very special community helper. It's actually about a little girl who helps her community out in a very different and very extraordinary way, okay? She uses her talent and her extra special love and kindness she shows for others to help her community out. And you're going to find out very soon what special thing she does and what special thing happens because she does. Okay? Now, before we start, you might be wondering, what in the world am I wearing on my head? Well, it looks a little like a wig, doesn't it? But it's not a wig. It's actually a hat. This is a pretty fancy looking hat, isn't it? Well, this is a very special hat. You know why it's so special? It's because it was made by my very own sister. She made me this very special hat. And it's made out of some special material. Can you guess what it's made out of? It's very soft. Yeah. Well, it's made out of lamb's wool. Okay? Real lamb's wool. And what my sister did, she made the yarn herself. She spun the yarn on a spinning wheel, and then she knitted it into this beautiful hat. It's called a crown hat, and it's so gorgeous, isn't it? And it keeps my head super, super warm. And you might be wondering how she got all these beautiful pink colors in this hat. Well, she dyed the lamb's wool with Kool-Aid to get the pink. Isn't that silly? That's a little bit silly, a little different, isn't it? But this is a very special hat for me, and every time I wear it, it reminds me of all the love and work my sister put in for it to make it. So, now, today, on with our story. Our story is called Extra Yarn by Mac Burnett and illustrated by John Clayson. Okay? It's one of my favorite stories. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town where everywhere you looked was either the white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box with yarn of every color. Wow, that's a lucky find, isn't it? So, she went home and knitted herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. So, she knit a sweater for Mars too. That's her doggie. Oh my goodness. But guess what? There was still extra yarn. What is she going to do with that extra yarn? And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed. Ha ha ha, he said, "You look ridiculous." "You are just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. Is Nate being very nice? He is not being very nice. But guess what? Turns out he was jealous. And guess what Annabelle did? Knitted him and his dog a sweater too. And even after she made a sweater for Nate and his dog, and for herself and for Mars, she still had what? Extra yarn. And at school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet," shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone." "Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." Then I'll knit one for everyone, Annabelle said, so they won't have to turn around. Impossible, said Mr. Norman. You can't. But guess what? It turns out she could, and she did. Even for Mr. Norman. Oh my goodness, girls, look at all these beautiful sweaters that she knitted for everybody in her classroom. And guess what? And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and for Mr. Pendleton and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and even for little Louis. All these beautiful sweaters. My goodness, you would think she would run out of yarn. But she didn't. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. No sweater for me, thanks, said Mr. Crabtree. So guess what? What did she do? So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and for all the other animals too. Soon people thought, soon Annabelle will run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. Sweaters for mailboxes and birdhouses and houses themselves. That's a lot of yarn to make all this. Things began to change in that little town. Look at all the sweaters she is knitting for all the buildings in the town. Is that town looking a little different than before? It's looking beautiful and more colorful, right? News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from all around the world to see all the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. My goodness, here he is. What do you think he's going to ask her? Little girl, said the Archduke, I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn, and I'm willing to offer you $1 million. No, thank you, said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The Archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, he said. Annabelle shook her head. No, thanks. 10 million, shouted the Archduke. Take it or leave it. Leave it, said Annabelle. I won't sell the yarn. And she didn't. My goodness, how do you think that made the Archduke feel? Maybe a little upset, right? Because he wanted it. But Annabelle was not giving up her yarn. So that night, the Archduke hired 3 robbers. That's not very nice, is it? To break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the box. Is that right, girls? Is that a good thing to do, to steal something? No, not at all. And they took it to the Archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. So they were taking it to the Archduke. And they went back to the castle. And the Archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair, and he took out the box, and he lifted its lid, and he looked inside. And guess what, girls? Can you guess what happens next when he looks inside the box? My goodness, girls, the box is what? It's empty. There's no yarn. But Annabelle always had extra yarn. His mustache quivered. It shivered. It trembled. Oh, the Archduke hurled that box out of the window and shouted, "Little girl, you will never be happy again." That's a terrible wish on somebody, right? He wished that she would never be happy again, and he threw the box out the window. Oh dear. But guess what? It went into the sea, right? Kind of landed, looks like an iceberg. It floated, 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 floated across the sea. And guess where it ended up, girls? It ended up right back to Annabelle. She got it back. Guess what? Do you think she was happy? Of course. It turned out she was so happy, right? She turned out, turned out she was happy, right? And look what she did. She even knitted the tree a sweater, right? Oh, what a wonderful story. And there's the rest of the tree and the rest of the animals on the tree that she knitted a sweater for. And guess what? She never what? Ran out of yarn, right? She always had extra yarn because she always had love in her heart, and she gave it away and more came back to her, right? This story always reminds me of a special song we sing in chapel. Does anyone know which song I'm talking about? I think some of you might. It's the Magic Penny song. Yeah, I love that song. And girls, I thought it would be kind of fun to sing it before we leave today. And I have a special friend, a special helper to help us out today. And as a matter of fact, he happens to be wearing the matching sweater to this hat that my sister made for me. Can you believe it? She also made me a matching sweater to this hat. Now, I can't wear it right now because it is very hot. This is very hot now, but guess who's wearing it for us today to show us? It's our friend Curious George! All right, Curious George. He's going to help us out with our Magic Penny song today, okay? He's very excited. He's waving to everybody. Hey, girls. All right, now, I hope you remember the Magic Penny song. We're going to sing it really quickly with Curious George. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Ready? Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. You hold it tight and you won't have any. You lend it, spend it, you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. So, love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. Right, girls? Okay, here's my love out to you. Mwah. Now you take it and pass it on to somebody else, okay? Bye-bye.